All right. What's up, everybody? Let's just wait for everything to load here. We're going to make sure everything is up and Adam says we're on the Twitter. There's YouTube. YouTube is here. What's up, YouTube? Good to see you. Rockfin, how are you? Are we? Oh, Rockfin's a little slow. There it is, though. There it is. Rockfin. It's like I'm. Hold on. Sorry, my cushion's a little messed up today. Sorry about that. Um, it's almost like I'm calling the children in for dinner. Like, come on in, Twitter. Come on now, you YouTube. All right, Rockfin, your turn now. Say hello in the chat. Let everyone know you're here. And what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Good evening. Good times if you're checking out the audio podcast later. I hope things are great where you're at. And to everyone in the future who might be checking this out live, Australia, New Zealand, thanks for waking up early. I'm pretty sure it's really early where you're at. And thanks for being here. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. This is the headlines show of the week. And we have a lot of labor news this week. There's a lot going on in labor. There's a couple things that I was kind of hoping to get to, but are like really breaking like right now. So I won't be able to get to this week, but maybe we'll touch on next week, depending on how they unfold. But first and foremost, helping me with the headlines this week, we're going to be on the road very soon. He's going to be opening all my shows in April, which we'll shout out those dates in just a second here. But first, welcome to the show, Mr. Krish Moen. What's up, Krish? Oh, wait, I did.
Hello. There we
What's
go.
up, buddy? How are you?
The people can
Yeah.
see me now.
Sorry about that.
Oh.
I took you out of the stream instead of adding you to it there real quick for like a brief second. I don't think anyone actually noticed, but I confess my mistake anyway. I can't. How are you, buddy? How's it going?
Good. Good. It's
Yeah.
we in Pittsburgh. We got all the seasons wrapped up in 1 week. This week we
Perfect.
had one of those weeks. So it's a good week for someone with large sinuses such as
Oh,
myself.
dude,
What a great.
dude. Yeah, well, and speaking of Pittsburgh, that's where the shows kick off. So we'll
Yeah.
let people know April 16th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm going to be there. Chris is opening that show. Lauren Ashcraft will also be opening on that show. And then Chris and I are hitting the road. We're going to Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Maine, Boston, Massachusetts, New York City. Lauren Ashcraft will be on the show in New York City as well. And Jill Stein is going to be joining me for a song in Boston. That's how we're going to end the show in Boston. So don't wait. Get your tickets now. Go to romplico.com.
Right on.
Get your tickets, and we can't wait to see you. We're going to have a fun time. Going to be a fun little spring run. So looking forward to that. So
Is this your first time out, by the way, since the pandemic started, or have you like done? I don't know if you've done like
doing
any
more
out of
than like
town.
2 shows in a row. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, doing more
Yeah.
than like, I mean, we did, Graham and I did San Francisco and Sacramento.
Okay.
At one point in 2021 when things were like opening up and and then of course there was like the other surge and whatnot. So it was like sort of like, hey, we're no, not really. It was
The
it was
world
like it was like
exploded
during that.
again. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it was a weird time. It's still a weird time now, but looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
some folks.
Me
Looking forward to
too.
seeing folks on the road. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, so before we kick into the stories today, I feel like we kind of have to address the elephant in the room, so to speak, because people have been talking about it non-stop this entire week. You know where I'm going, dude. Climate change. People just won't shut up about it. They keep talking about it. We're like, we get it, man. I know the climate's in trouble. We got to do something. I mean, we talk about it, but all week you guys have been talking about it. Come on.
It's
We
just
get
that and the Pentagon. That and how we got to
the
take down
Pentagon
the
budget.
Pentagon. It's
That's
every
all.
day. It's like, oh my God, look at how much money we're throwing into the Pentagon nonstop.
All
It's like,
people are
give it a
talking
rest
about.
already.
I know. We get it. Yeah. Don't you love all these violence is never the answer people that are silent about the Pentagon budget? And of course, we're referring to the Chris Rock thing, Chris Rock, Will Smith thing. I'm so sick of freaking hearing about it. But I feel like
Yeah.
because this is a once a week show, like and we're both comic, like we have to just address it and be like, okay, it happened. We all know it happened. People have been talking about it non freaking stop. here's my take, here's your take. Can
Everybody,
we
yeah.
I mean, can we be done with it? And it's like, look, I mean, most people who follow me on Twitter, they already know my take. I think Will Smith was 100% in the wrong. He had no business doing that. That was the totally wrong way to react. By the way, I think he could have looked like a hero because you know what he could have done? What he could have done was he could have, in his speech, roasted Chris Rock a little bit. He could have done that. So, you know what, Will Smith, instead of slapping comedians, which is a terrible, terrible thing to do, you should be hiring them to write
Counter
jokes for you.
roast.
Yeah, yeah, hire them. Hire them to write roast jokes on Chris Rock for you. You know, you could have done that instead. So yeah, I'm against what he did 110%. Now, was it a great joke? No, I don't think it was a very cool joke. And I would like to think, I mean, look, Chris Rock, one of the most successful comedians in the freaking world, the people writing for that thing, presumably some of the best comedy writers in the freaking world. I mean, look, I'm nowhere near his level. Neither are you. None of us are. But I'd like to think if I was in those shoes and someone came up to me and they said, "Hey, I got this great joke. It references a movie that's 25 years old and it makes fun of a woman's medical condition." I'd like to think I'd be like, I don't think that's something that's going to make the A list. I don't think we need to go there.
Well,
So look,
that's
I get
yeah.
that, but that doesn't justify hitting a person.
I don't think it does. And at first, I because I'm sick of these kind of low hanging fruit jokes that comics make, and because they're quote unquote the goat, right? Oh, Chappelle and Chris Rock, they're the goats. They're the goat, and it's just like that doesn't give you an excuse to like make fun of a person's medical condition and take personal shots at something that they're very vulnerable about. But it also doesn't
Yeah.
justify getting slapped in the
No, it
face.
doesn't just
Like,
there's
so, and at first I was like, okay, maybe this will get comics to think twice. I doubt it, but I
nah,
don't.
dude. I
It's not
think
good. That's
well,
not
here's the
a
thing.
way to
I
respond
agree.
to it.
Right. I actually agree with what Kathy Griffin actually had a really good tweet about it. She's like, "Look, this is not good, and now we all have to worry about who's going to want to be the next Will Smith in a club or theater." Now, here's the thing. That being said, there are some comics online and stuff who took that to the extreme, to the point where we sounded like parodies of ourselves. I mean, there were some comics like, "I am never going to do stand up again because I will die. They will kill me. They're waiting to load us on a ship and set it on fire." And it's like, okay, calm down. It's open season. All right, dude, get a grip. Get a
Can I
freaking grip. Get a
can I
grip.
add that though? Because I feel like there's already an open season on comedians, right? As somebody that has literally had multiple death threats thrown at him while he's been on stage,
Mhm.
there's been an open season on comics. Comics. I don't know how it is in other countries, but at least in the United States, it seems like comedians are held to a higher standard than most politicians.
Well,
You
and
know,
not
that's why
just
I'm like,
that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's this notion of now there's an open season. There's already been an open season on comics. It's just been on a different way. Now we have to wonder. But to that point, I will say that anytime someone has ever threatened violence towards me, uh, the venue and the booker and the other comics, and usually a lot of the audience don't tolerate it, and that person is basically swarmed out of the
Mhm.
venue before they can even think about charging the stage. So there is something to say about that, which again shows you the difference between playing, venues where they give a shit about the comedians and the audience and the staff versus the Academy, who let a man walk very nonchalantly and smack another man in the face.
Do you well, here,
Like
let's do you believe that they asked him to leave?
Will Smith?
Yeah, because 'cause they're
I don't
saying that
I
they
don't think
did.
so.
Yeah, I don't believe it either. They're
No
saying
way.
they're
He
just
got an
like
award like
they're like,
5 minutes later.
we asked him to leave." Like, "Oh, the guy who, because of what he did, your ratings went up." Like, you had about 8 million people watching, then you had 17 million people watching. Yeah, you didn't ask anyone to leave. The only thing you were looking at was those numbers going up and being like, "Oh, thank goodness." That's all you were doing. All right. And this does go into, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. I really don't. But it kind of, like you're saying, comedians are held to some standard, which is true. But then the other side of it too, And this is even reflected at the highest level, even at the level of Chris Rock, where it's like, but what we do isn't even treated like an art form in so many cases. And in other countries, that's not the case. Like here, it's like, hey,
It's
there's
dinner
the
entertainment.
it's dinner entertainment. It's a commodity. It's like, oh, there's the bachelorette party with dildos on their head, or there's the bachelor party with a bunch of dudes who are horny and just want to go to the strip club, whatever. It's like you deal with that all the time, and that's why like I love the whole all of these comedy clubs and all these like, oh, we care so much about the comedian safety. Really? An industry where comics wages, for anyone who doesn't know this, the wages for stand-up comics have literally, not like due to inflation or whatever, literally gone down since the 1980s. You would literally get a higher dollar amount in the 1980s than you get now for a position at a comedy club as a comedian. Wages have literally gone down. They take money from us constantly. They're constantly cutting our pay. A lot of times, you don't even get a meal anymore. Sometimes they're taking rooms away from comics now. That's just that's amplified even within the past 10 to 15 years since I've been in the game and you've been in the game. And all of a sudden they care about our safety? You freaking kidding me? Come on. And now the other side of that, there are some clubs out there that I would not be here if it wasn't for them. They made they helped my career so freaking much. And like there are some club owners out there that are absolutely wonderful people. In the United States, at least, they are the exception, not the rule. So to them, thank you so much. But overall, like you care about our
No,
safety all of a
yeah,
sudden. Cool
yeah,
story. Cool
yeah,
story. So all right. I feel like we talked about it. We did it.
yeah.
Did we do it?
I
It's
talked about
been,
it.
oh my
I
God.
discussed it at length with Misty Winston yesterday, and I feel like I'm good. Like
Dude.
I got my thoughts out about it.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted about it and I
Yeah,
retweeted
yeah.
I retweeted Kathy Griffin. I'm like, yeah, I think that sums it up. It's like, yeah, we all need to worry about who's gonna be, on the same note, was it a great joke? No, it wasn't a great
No,
joke, but that doesn't mean you go hit somebody. Instead,
no,
hire a comedian to write some roast jokes for you. Hire could be like, I mean, he could have texted anyway. He could be like, dude, give me some roast jokes because if I win this award, I'm gonna roast Chris Rock for making that joke. And and one last thing, I got it. Some people they're making this out like, oh, it's about protecting women. It's about protecting women. No, it isn't. Here's what was going on earlier in that day. They were a bunch of reporters, or at least one. There was that reporter that was kind of making jokes about her quote entanglements, which means she's going around having sex with other people. Now I don't know what their entire situation is. Apparently, it's an open marriage. I
they're
don't know.
figuring it out.
I don't care. I mean,
Yeah,
who
it's their
cares?
that's their business.
Right, it's totally their
Yeah,
business. The only thing I'm saying is, like, it's clear that he's very, like, not okay with whatever it is. It's very clear that he is very insecure about it, that he kind of feels put on blast, and I think that was him snapping.
I
So
think so too.
I don't think this had anything to do with, oh, he's protecting women. I think this has to do with, no, he frickin' snapped and his ego couldn't take it anymore because he was in a room full of his peers in
Yep.
Hollywood, the most gossip central. Everybody knows that your wife is having sex with other people. Which again, if you have an open marriage and both people are totally secure with that, that's fine. But it doesn't seem like this is the case here. And
I don't think he is.
so
Yeah. I think
yeah,
he's playing
so
secure, but but that's the thing is like there's a lot more to it than the surface. But the things that the comedians are like kind of freaking out about, I don't think is going to be as extreme as what some of these comics are. Oh, I'm going to die if I get on stage. It's like, all right, let's take it down a
yeah,
few notches.
it's some people are taking it to extreme. Okay, we talked
Yeah,
about it.
we get it.
Hopefully, they're not going to still be making memes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week next week. We'll see though. I mean, there's other shit going on.
No, no,
Okay,
no.
there
It'll be
really is.
another Putin.
And
It'll be
and
another
guess
Putin
what?
meme.
At the end of the day, they're both very rich. Okay, they're both very rich people who they all right. We talked about it. Let's move on to, we're staying in show business though, Krish. We're not moving on from show business.
Thank
Uh
goodness.
Animators. animators, there's something going on here. Now, I just want to start by just kind of watching this video. This is from More Perfect Union, which they do incredible work. We lean on them a lot on this show. They do amazing things. Here's the tweet. Animators who make hit shows for Netflix, Disney, and Cartoon Network are taking on the Hollywood giants. Workers on animated content are paid far less than on action films, and for no good reason.
Mm.
So now the Animation Guild is calling for a new deal for animation workers. And I don't, if they don't get this new deal, maybe they'll be going on strike. So let's see what's going on first. Let's start with their video.
This is a real script for a real half-hour-long animated TV show. This is a real script for a real half-hour-long live-action TV show. This one cost less than half the price of this one.
So I knew that, animation costs less. I didn't know it was that significant. I didn't know it was literally less than half. And that is freaking nuts. But
That shocked me too.
That
Yeah.
shocked me too, that it was that big of a
Yeah.
difference. And there is no reason well, they're going to get to it, but there's no reason for it to be that way. Like there is absolutely, I mean, when you think about, people think like, oh, well, there's not a live action set. So there's not like all these lighting requirements and all this filming and all these actors. It's just more drawing. No. There are voice actors. There is, actually drawing the animation and the storyboard. It is a remarkably difficult task. But let's go to the video and then we'll break it down more from our perspectives. But
why is that? Because it's animated.
Better schedule, put us first.
Better schedule, put us first. Well, I'm here today because I want to advocate for a new deal for animation. We make these shows, we make these cartoons, we are the actors and the artists and the writers and the animators who bring these characters to life.
Animation writers have these same exact skills as live action writers. There's literally no difference in what they have to do. They're writing characters, they're writing scenes, they're writing dialogue. It's exactly the same as television writers for the same amount of time, but they get paid a fraction of the cost.
And we just don't get enough for what we do, and especially because during the pandemic, we were carrying the entertainment industry.
That's the freaking truth, by the way. That's the freaking truth. Animation was still something you could kind of do remotely. So they were really leaning on animation hard during the thick of the pandemic.
And I don't know if you watched the He-Man thing that or Masters of the Universe that Kevin Smith made, but they did like some behind the scenes interviews and the actors talk about like how they couldn't go into the studio because of COVID, so they built their own kind of home studio to do.
Right.
So in that regard, it's like you saved how much on studio costs? That these guys, did it with setups like this. With obviously they have a lot more money to soundproof and do all that kind of stuff. But the audio equipment is probably very similar to the stuff that you and I are using. So how much money did the studio save on not having to rent out like a voice recording space?
Right. So it's like, because you can make it more economically, which is great. That's really cool. But that doesn't mean you should be paying less than half for it, because the labor is the frickin' same. The labor is the same. I would argue, I think in some cases you could argue it's frickin' more, because again, like, well, let's finish the video first and then go to some of our takes. So productions closed during the pandemic. Studios leaned heavily on animated content to meet their demand.
Animation workers power this
Conover.
industry. They generate bucket loads, car loads, dump truck loads of money for the companies, and they deserve to be paid and receive benefits that reflect that.
The Animation Guild represents the workers who make some of TV's most beloved characters. They're showing SpongeBob here, Rick and Morty.
Simpsons.
Production workers at Rick and Morty and Solar. Okay.
I worked on The Adventures of
So they're
Pink
trying to
Ranger
unionize.
for Nickelodeon, and I've worked on other DreamWorks projects. I've worked on Trolls and Madagascar a Little Wild.
I've been on the Patrick Star Show. I've been on Aquaman, King of Atlantis. I've been on
Here, hold on. I want to back up a little bit because I missed some of the production workers at Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites just filed for a union election with the guild. Okay, so there's some production workers trying to unionize, like directly separate from the guild.
And those are like big shows. Those are Dan Harmon shows.
Yeah, I mean, Rick and Morty. So Solar Opposites, I'm not familiar with. That's another Dan Harmon thing?
Yeah, or Justin Roiland thing. It's kind of the same team. The humor
Okay.
is a little similar. It's a good show. It's fun.
Well, Dan Harmon, I think, kind of presents himself as a lefty.
Hmm.
So,
I
I mean,
wouldn't be
I'd like.
surprised.
I hope he's supportive of this. I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess time will tell.
I
But
hope
you
so.
know,
Yeah,
I
I
have
hope
I have
so.
no reason to think one way or the other, really. I mean, but I would like to think he would be. Okay,
worked
so we'll
on
fast forward.
these times for these companies, you start realizing that you might be taken advantage of in certain circumstances.
The Animation Guild is currently bargaining a new contract. The union is demanding a new deal for animation.
What exactly do we need in a new deal? Well, I say we need a new deal that treats people of different identities equally. We need a new deal that pays us equally for our work, regardless of what platform it airs on. We need a new deal that pays artists and writers working under unit rates equally to their full-time counterparts. We need a new deal that pays animation workers equally to our live-action counterparts.
Last fall, Hollywood. All right, so now they're bringing the IATSE stuff. All right, so a couple things to point out for anyone who might not, might not be privy to some of the stuff that she was referring to there, because she was, speaking to her peers out there on the picket line when she said, "Oh, we want to be paid equally regardless of the platform." Now, we've mentioned this on the show before when we talked about the IATSE strike, but what that refers to, so years ago, when Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that were pretty new, they were considered, I believe the term they use in the industry is experimental media or new media. And what that meant back then was it didn't have a big cable company behind it. They didn't know if this stuff was going to work out. A lot of people at this time didn't even know what Netflix was. And so those productions had way smaller budgets. And so people were expected to work for what were considered new media, experimental media rates. And if you got hired on a job like that, you knew the job you were getting hired for. And that was that. You were kind of all rolling the dice a little bit. Okay, well, that's one thing. Certainly there's small budget things that happen and people go into that knowing it's a small budget thing, whatever. But guess what? It's 2022 now. Netflix isn't some small kid on campus anymore. Hulu's not some small kid. Now they're the giants. They're actually bigger than everybody else. But here's what they do, folks. They still try to claim, oh, this is a new media project. You're expected to get paid new media rates. They still play that game. And it's bullshit now. Maybe 15 years ago, it wasn't bullshit. Now it's bullshit. Does anyone watching not know what Netflix is?
Right.
Anybody? Send me an email if you hear this and you're like, what Netflix? What's that? So you guys get the idea, but they still try to play that card, and it's absolute nonsense. And the IATSE, which are the stage and theatrical workers, the people who do lighting and work behind the scenes, etc., they said enough is enough on this. And they demanded better wages, and they demanded, shorter shifts and stuff like that. And they got some of what they wanted. They didn't get everything, probably because it didn't lead to a full-out strike. There was just the threat of one. But but either way, they did get a contract negotiation that most people were okay with. So that's what she's referring to when she says, equal pay regardless of platform. And then the other thing, of course, is equal pay to the live action counterparts.
Well, the other thing too is everything is switching over to streaming now. Like Paramount TV, like NBC has its own thing. So everything is going to streaming. So continuing to call that new media is just is ludicrous.
It's so bullshit.
Bullshit. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Look at the direction everything is going. Like, like there every time I turn on my TV, there's an ad for me to, get a Paramount Plus account because Picard is on it or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like nonstop. Everybody's coming out with their own streaming service or partnering with one.
Right.
FX has partnered with Hulu. You know, it's like that's kind of where that industry is going. And if you're not going to pay people in accordance to that direction, then that's what it leads to. It's going to lead to a strike. It's going to lead to workers getting organized because, hey, guess what? We've had some time to think, and we realized that we're worth a lot more than what we've been getting. And there's been a collective kind of raising of the consciousness in that, as it were, because and that's due to the pandemic. We had some time to sit back and reflect.
Yeah.
So regardless, I think this would be happening. It just at the rate that at how quickly all of this stuff is happening and how many industries are kind of coming together to unionize, I think is due to the pandemic.
It gave it a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to touch on animation a little bit too, because I know we kind of touched on it, but then let the video play. Like, it is an insane amount of work. It is so. I mean, people think like, oh, well, it's just voice actors. There's no cameras. You don't have to worry about lighting. It's all done on a computer or like on the drawing board. No, you have to draw so many freaking things, and everything needs to line up perfect. There's a documentary that I've actually not seen, but it's called 6 Days to Air. And it really breaks down what it takes to make a weekly cartoon, like just 20-minute cartoon. It is a nuts amount of work. And I think anyone who's not in it, myself included, to be brutally honest, sometimes we don't even realize exactly how much it takes. Look, I have a webcomic called Lucy and Ron. That's not even a full animation. It's just a webcomic. We are bringing that comic back soon, which I'm freaking thrilled about. But we went on hiatus for a while. Why did we go on hiatus? Well, because we couldn't keep up with the schedule. And it was because, like, I did not understand exactly the bandwidth necessary to draw it. I had no clue. Like I just didn't. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. So I didn't know how long things were taking Chris, the animator. I just had no clue. And writing the comics was a less laborious task in comparison. It just doesn't take as long. So, we had to kind of revisit how we produced the comic, and I had to better understand what his part entails. And I was ignorant to it, not out of anything malicious or anything like that. I just honestly didn't know. And now I do, and I have a better understanding for it. And it's like, yeah, it is a ton. The idea that it is seen as less than just because it's not a live action. I mean, I knew that was going on, and of course it's ridiculous, but you kind of know what's going on. But to know it's going on to that scale, less than half, that is remarkable. It shouldn't be less than at all. It should be the exact freaking same. But
I'm curious to see what animation rates in anime is in Japan.
that's interesting.
Like
Yeah.
how, because that's a really big industry, and it's I would say, if not as large, bigger than the animation industry in the States, because that's kind of its own thing. Like I'm curious to know if the animators in Japan get paid, a much fairer wage especially in comparison to live action TV in Japan. I'd probably have to dig into that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would guess so, but that's just because I assume everywhere is doing better than the United States. That's like I would just like I wonder if this country does it better than the United States. Probably. It's a different country. I
It's
know
not-
everywhere's got its problems.
It's not
I
the
know.
epitome of capitalism.
Yeah, no, I know everywhere's. Although apparently, like a Japanese passport, that's like the most valuable passport in the world.
That's
right
what I've heard too. Yeah.
Japanese, Japan and Singapore. Those are the most valuable passports. If you got one of those and then the next are like a couple ones in the EU. I don't know how they make those determinations though. Like I think they measure it by like where can you just go without any type of visa, like where all can you travel. But as far as like what all that passport gets you other than that, like I don't know how they exactly measure it. But according to like the rankings that just came out, like Japan, Singapore, those are like the best passports in the world. And maybe that's one of the reasons. Maybe we got to look it up, and it'll just be like we pay animators better.
We pay animators better. Yeah.
Chris Schmoen, you're welcome to come here. We pay animators better to answer your question. We'll treat you right. You could do animation
I
if you really
could.
wanted to.
It's the technical aspect of it. I think that's what I didn't connect with. It's the same thing with code. Like I know some basics of code, but I just didn't. My brain didn't latch onto it because it's so. It's too many numbers and that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, I don't think I have the brain for it. I feel like if I really concentrated on it, I would be able to figure it out. I actually wanted to go into animation when I was in high school, and then I found out like how much of the technical side is involved, and I was like, I don't think I
did they go through it? They were like, "This is how long it takes to make a 3-minute freaking thing," and you're like, that'll take the rest of my life. I mean, yeah, it's a
did a flip
lot,
book.
folks. Like, it's
I
a
did a flip
freaking
book.
lot. Yeah, you did.
I made a flip book, and that's it. That's all. That's the
You were like,
animation.
I'm tapped. I mean,
I'm
dude,
done.
it is so much. And to someone who really cannot draw, I mean, to me, it's a superpower. Like to me, it's like to be able to just draw a decent picture. I mean, that just blows my mind right away. Like you need to know exactly how to start, the exact line to start to draw. And I'm like, how do you know that? How do you I don't know how you do it. It's a superpower to me. And then not only that, but you know how to do it panel after panel so that it goes in sequence and looks like a cohesive thing that people can watch. I mean, it's amazing to me. And now I know different people have different skills or whatever. I mean, I know that other people, they might feel like it's amazing that you could sit down and write a story. It's amazing that you could like whatever. But to me, like that is something that is a freaking superpower to me, man. I don't know how anyone does that. It's amazing.
What I do when I want to draw something is I get really, really stoned, and then I let the weed do the drawing for me, man. That's what I do. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
I
There
do.
you
I
go.
do.
Well,
That
if
does.
I knew
That
it was
does help
that
a little
easy.
bit. Yeah, man, you've had the power within you the whole time, Ron. But the other thing I think this is going to do too is like kind of shine a little bit more light on video game animators too,
Mhm.
because I wouldn't be surprised if video game animators don't get paid as well as they should either.
Really?
Especially compared to
See, I
like
wonder.
software developers. Maybe I don't know.
Mm.
I am making a conjecture if anything, but yeah, like I wonder if that would open up the conversation in terms of like how are video game animators treated? Is it to
I'd be
industry
curious.
standards? Yeah, and
I'd be curious.
in relation to like the software side of it, are they getting paid equivalent? Because again, without the animators, like these are two pieces of the same coin. Two sides of the same
Yeah.
coin. So
Well, this is just a guess again, but my kind of like assumption, and again, I'm just kind of guessing here. I don't know much about how video game animators are treated. I really don't. But I feel like once intense programming is involved, they usually gotta treat you right because they don't have a choice. Like I think usually like programmers, I mean, they get compensated fair. They, it's like those are the types of people like you can't really mess with them. But when you're still more in the creative realm, which is the
yeah.
animation guild,
Mhm.
when you're still in the creative realm, when you're writing and even if you're drawing, like that's still kind of in the creative realm. That's when they could fuck with you because
Mhm.
you just love what you do so much. It's your passion, right? Yeah, but it's generating you a lot of freaking money,
Yeah.
and we
So let's
deserve to get
exploit that
compensated
passion.
fair. Yeah, so let's exploit
Let's
that. Yeah,
yeah.
USA,
Yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
So, all right,
So
let's
much
move on.
exposure, Ron. So much
Oh
exposure.
God, oh God, yeah. This is this show has been very showbiz centric due to the leading story today. But so in closing, give the animators everything they want and then
Yes.
some. It's ridiculous they even have to ask for this. And I hope if their deal is not met 100%, I hope they go on frickin' strike and they don't mess around with it. They don't threaten a strike. They frickin' go on strike. They say, you know
just
what?
do it.
Screw you. We're frickin' done. You really need us, especially right now, because we still live in very trying times. You need us, and you're fucking with us. So we're out. We're out. I hope that's what they do. And I hope they get every single demand met. I hope they don't have to do that because every single demand is met immediately. So shout out to the animators. You guys have superpowers. Please contact myself or Chris if you want to help with an animation of Lucy and Ron. All right. LucyandRon.com. We are bringing it back, which I'm super excited about. I've missed that's a project I've really missed a lot. But we're gonna alter the production schedule so that it's more friendly to both of our lives, myself and Chris, the animator. So I'm real excited for that. All right, so let's go over to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks unionization efforts. So I want to watch this video to start. And by the way, as we're going through this, let's keep in mind the first Starbucks store in the South just voted to unionize a store in Knoxville, Tennessee. Which Knoxville is a very underrated city, if I must say so. I love that town.
Yeah.
Knoxville,
It's very cool.
Knoxville is really cool. I tweeted once about like where I felt were like the most underrated cities in the country or just underrated towns. I mean, it didn't have to be like a major city, but I mentioned Detroit because I mean I love Detroit. And I mentioned Pittsburgh, you know, I mean, obviously a bias there. And I mentioned Bloomington, Indiana. Again, those are my biases. And I admitted that. I'm like, look, I'm very biased when it comes to both these places. One's my hometown, one's where I went to college. And then I said Chattanooga and Knoxville, both in Tennessee. But those are two very, very, I mean, I don't like to do superlatives, but if someone said you have to pick the most underrated city in the country, I would have to go with Chattanooga. I think that now being a Muni broadband guy, it makes sense why that would be my pick. For anyone not in the know, if you're newer to this show, if you're not new to this show, this is the billionth time you've heard this, but hey, this is part of what I do. Chattanooga has the best internet, not just in the country, some of the best internet in the world because they have municipal broadband and they were ahead of the curve on it. So that's something that residents in Chattanooga enjoy, and they probably pay less than what you and I pay for internet. They get pretty fair internet at a really good price. I think it averages about $65 a month, and they have some of the best internet in the world. So yeah, but there's other reasons. It's not like Chattanooga also like sucks for everything else. Chattanooga's also like their downtown is really cool. The Riverwalk is neat. They have like rivers and streams and then like these rock hikes and stuff. It is if you love the outdoors, it's one of the best places you could be. Beautiful. It's what I mean. It's like you don't have a coast, so it's like you don't have that, but it's like you have pretty much everything else and great weather.
I'll add Huntsville to that list of underrated cities too. I think Huntsville's pretty underrated. Yeah,
Huntsville, Alabama. Yeah,
they got some real cool stuff happening in Huntsville too. Yeah. No, I agree.
All right,
Chattanooga's awesome.
All right, so let's go to this story though.
Yeah.
We're just like Knoxville, by the way, underrated place. But all right, so I tweeted this, and we're gonna watch the video. Imagine being so brutal and insufferable. Even Wall Street is like, yeah, even we don't think it makes sense to be this big of a dick. So here is the let me pull up the separate link here just to make sure. I can't remember if it's something different or if it's the same thing, but I want to watch this video so you see what I'm referring to. Because basically they don't get the entire thing right, in my opinion, but okay, it was something different. I apologize. Let me go back real quick and then we'll go to the Knoxville thing. But yeah, so this is what people on Wall Street had to say. All right, so this is Yahoo Finance. Hold on, let me just...
Starbucks store in Seattle unanimously vote in favor of union representation. In fact, union votes around the country, plus other factors like Starbucks' recent guidance, have been hitting the stock. It is down more than 25% year to date. But there's one analyst who says now's a good time to buy. Joining us now to discuss is Jefferies managing.
So to be fair here, like just to be thorough here, I mean, this is a finance thing. So they're just talking about now's the time to buy because the stock is down. But they start talking about why the stock is down. And even this Wall Street dude is basically saying, yeah, they're being ridiculous. They should probably just treat workers better. So even from the capitalist perspective, they're like, yeah, this is ridiculous. But here, let's check it.
Andy Barish. Andy, it is good to see you. So I want to take up the union issue first. You know, it's only been a handful of stores thus far that have voted to unionize. put this in context for us and whether or not it's going to be important to Starbucks as a company.
Yeah, good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me on. It certainly has presented a headline risk, and I believe it is a contributing factor to some of the stock weakness this year. We have spoken with some experts. In fact, the former head of the SEIU, which is the union behind the organization efforts of Starbucks stores. And, this is really more of a safety, respect, benefits type of grievance, if you will. And it's not really pay or wages or anything along.
It's both, but like he goes on, like this is the only thing he says. So that's why I'm like, he doesn't get it all right. But it also, like, I mean, how disconnected can you frickin' sound? Like, he's like, the poors are complaining that, they have no respect. And it's like, that seems to be the grievance. I talked to a human person who communicates directly with the poors who are trying to make this effort. And my understanding is that some humans only make so much money per hour, in fact. But anyway, here, let's watch the rest of this.
Along those lines that might have a significant financial impact. So at this point, we feel, fairly comfortable as this process moves along, even if it does result in the company having to negotiate collective bargaining agreements, that the financial impact would be relatively immaterial. Obviously, there is some, reputational risk if, this becomes more of a fight or a battle of words. And hopefully, just given Starbucks' ability to work through a lot of these issues that they've seen in the past and being such a progressive employer, we think there'll be a positive resolution as we move forward.
So what he's saying in so many words, even though, again, he's not getting all of the grievances 100% right, probably because this guy never needs to leave a gated community if he doesn't want to. But what he's saying is, yeah, it's not worth it for them to be assholes like this. It's worth it for them to just give the workers what they want. It's part of the reason the stock is down. It's part of the reason, like the reputation is waiting, which this proves two things. Here's what this proves. One, that again, even from the capitalist, like money perspective, it makes no sense to do what Starbucks is doing or what any of these corporations are doing. And this is something like anyone remotely on the left has been saying forever. Look, when you treat workers with respect and dignity, when you pay them living wages, they're more productive. Study after study has shown that. Everybody wins, even the people in charge. You win too. And guess what else happens? When all workers are treated with respect and dignity, and they all have money, and they all have time off, they have more time and money to spend in the economy. So once again, everybody wins. Even heartless, soulless, moralist, capitalist Magoo, you win too. Everyone freaking wins. It's a no-brainer. Even this Wall Street guy, who has probably never talked to anyone who makes less than 6 figures a year, ever, maybe, even he's saying, yeah, they're kind of being dicks and there's no reason for it, from his perspective.
And he kind of revealed that if they get what they wanted, it's really not going to affect the bottom line of the board of directors, because they make so much money that giving these people a legitimate cost of living upgrade, with benefits and pay, is not going to take anything significant away from these billionaires who have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's just like
it's a control thing.
It's a control thing, and what it also is it's I think it's fear of what the future could hold. I think it's like, we don't want to give them any leverage now, because when the workers realize that they can strike and they can strike effectively, they're going to start, like, they're going to keep you in check. They're going to keep you in check. I mean, that's why in other countries they do it all the time. Because I mean, first of all, it's because they have a society where they can. They're not living paycheck to paycheck. Their healthcare is not tied to a job. But it's also because they know it's like, you mess with us, we're just gonna strike. And dude, I mean, when I was tweeting about this, I mean, I had someone that responded and they said, "Look, I'm a little older and I was able to buy a house, and my American dream, quote unquote, is gone now. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I had a strong union my entire working career." And he goes, "And eventually I got promoted to management, and I can tell you that union will always keep me in check, and they always have." That, he's like, "I'd like to be good to my people, so they never needed to, but they were always like, I knew if I wasn't meeting them where they wanted to be, that they would go on strike, and then I'm screwed." It's like it balances the power. It really does. And it's like, we used to have the quote American dream, and that was a large, large, large reason why. Because people had union protection. So you could just work an honest job for 40 hours a week. You could make a decent living. You had decent time off. You go on a nice vacation, and one income supported a family.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and to
And I think
highlight. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's also scary for a lot of corporations when they see workers at Starbucks, not working in the corporate office, but working in the stores, the retail stores, the service industry stores. It's the same thing with McDonald's or Burger King or Dunkin' Donuts. If those workers decide that they're kind of sick of the way that they're being treated by these companies and start organizing and unionizing and pushing to go on strike, then this is the lowest of the low, is kind of what we consider these people, right? In our society, like they're just service industry people, whatever. We don't have to treat them as well, but they don't have to get paid as well. Well, if they start getting
Meanwhile,
benefits and
they're
treated,
essential.
they're essential.
They're essential.
Right.
We treat
Right.
them like garbage, but they're essential.
Right.
I mean, how insulting.
What excuse do they have when people in middle management or people in animation or people in name an industry go on strike or try to organize for better pay and better treatment? They don't have an excuse anymore, because what they have considered the lowest of the low are now getting quite a bit of a quality of life bump, quality of life that they deserve. But this is they're asking for basic human rights. They're not asking for the rings of Saturn. They're just asking for better pay and healthcare.
Here's from More Perfect Union breaking. Starbucks workers in Knoxville, Tennessee have voted 8-7 to form the first unionized Starbucks in the South. So one unopened vote is being challenged, but the worker who cast it supports the union. So this will be the 9th unionized Starbucks store. So it's growing. And by the way, like they're already trying, like Starbucks is already changing some things to start to meet their demands. And that's just with 9 stores that have voted. So, I mean, people have been tweeting about this. Imagine if every Starbucks store is unionized. Imagine if there's a massive union at all of Starbucks. That work culture is going to change really quick. And it's like, this is how it starts. Like this is how it starts, because right now, I mean, I had the Moneyless Society organization on the show yesterday. Very interesting conversation. And they want to move to just a more sustainable world, which is admirable and totally admirable. But like when we started talking about strikes and stuff like that, I'm like, look, I feel like right now as a society, we have people underwater. And the first thing we have to do is we have to get them on land, and they have to be able to look around. And then once we get them there, then we can start moving even further. So I think this strikes, it's getting everybody on freaking land. And that needs to happen first.
For me, the more I kind of learned about it, the more I was like, I think the ultimate goal, or sort of the quote best way to run society, in my opinion, is a resource-based economy. You prevent you prevent a lot of the problems that you see within capitalism. But I also have to and this took time to learn and kind of put these pieces together. But you need to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
You can have that as a landmark goal. And for me now, I see the direct, in order to get us to a resource-based economy, we have to start adopting some socialist economic principles and some socialist living principles as well as a society in order to kind of veer in that direction. That means changing the way we look at a lot of the sociopolitical issues that we have, and changing the way, changing like our relationship to work and our relationship to employment. That's and these that's unionizing, right? Like labor organizing, giving workers power and balancing the scales between the bosses and the workers. That's what this is about. That's what's happening right now. So I think if you are for a resource-based economy, this should be very exciting.
Right.
Because this is society starting to head in the direction that I think we would all like to see.
I hope we'd all like to see it. I mean, it's just like I don't see how anyone wouldn't.
I know.
But it's like I think for a lot of people, it's just so hard to imagine just a society where it's like, no, we're still productive. It's just we're productive for the sake of meeting human needs, not for the sake of just endless profit.
But that argument kind of bothers me too. Is, oh, it's too different. Is it? Star Trek is one of the most popular franchises in the history of television, and that's that's human society that's built on no money. Like the Federation does not really have an economic system. They kind of have a barter system,
Right.
because they have to deal with other cultures and that sort of stuff. But in terms of the Federation, like, you never really see them talk about money on the Enterprise. Right, like no one has to pay for food or a living quarters or a shower or healthcare or anything. They just are like, you're sick, cool, go see McCoy. He's got you covered. Whatever. Like, is it really that hard to
Where's
imagine?
your copay, Jim? Damn it, Jim. Where's the copay?
Damn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not an insurance agent.
No, you're right, man. That's a good point.
It's not that hard to imagine. We did it.
Yeah. We did it in fiction. Now let's just do it for real.
But instead, we're taking 1984 as a playbook instead of Star Trek.
Yeah, no shit, right? No shit. I mean, some people, it's like all the warnings that philosophers gave over the years, like other people saw that as an instruction manual in the United States. Like they warned against ever doing anything like Wall Street. Proudhon was like, never have a situation where you just have capital being built on top of capital and it just all relies on capital. He was like, you should never do that in a society. And we were like, do that in a society all the freaking time? Great idea. No, not a great idea. That's why we have what we have. It's so, I mean, do you ever just have that moment where you're just sitting like, oh my God, Wall Street is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing that exists. It's so fucked up that anything like it exists. It should never, ever, like it should have never, ever, ever, ever happened. Now that it's here, we have to learn how to freaking, try to change it and dismantle it and move on. Like, you can't ignore the fact that it's there, but it should have never happened in a billion years. Like, it just should have never happened.
The founding fathers were against centralized banking and like anything resembling Wall Street. That they wrote about it, they talked about it. They were like, this is not how we should run our economy. That's insane. But here we are. Like that's what we did. And again, when people are like, oh well, it's too foreign of an idea for us to change what the founding fathers wrote, and it's like, is it because Wall Street was not in the plans, guys?
Yeah, no shit. And I see what you're saying, because it's like, yeah, the idea of having a computer in our pockets used to be too foreign of an idea. Right? The idea of a horseless buggy used to be too foreign of an idea. The idea that any human would ever fly is what used to be too foreign. So that's why, like, when people say, like, we've peaked at fossil fuels, we're done as a... It's like, really? You don't think we can freaking move past that? You can make a movie with the piece of equipment in your freaking pocket. You can make a movie with that. A movie. You could even, dare I say, make an animation, although you have to have a lot of skills to do that. But like, so anyway, one
Yeah.
last story, and this one is not happy. So we've been covering what's been going on in Seattle, and what's been going on in Seattle is a bunch of concrete workers went on strike via the Teamsters. They went on strike, and they are shutting down billions in development in Seattle. And they're saying, we worked all through the pandemic, and you are not treating us right. You are cutting our benefits. You are cutting our wages, and we're sick of it. And we're freaking standing up. And they are on strike, and the developers are freaking panicking because, again, billions are being shut down. Well, here's something that happened recently. Seattle concrete companies intentionally drove into striking workers at picket line. A King County Superior Court judge has ruled in favor of striking concrete workers who filed a lawsuit against the Seattle companies that attempted to block union members from protesting. According to Teamsters Local 174, 5 concrete companies, so these are scabs: Gary Merlino Construction, Stoneway Concrete, Cabin Materials, Inc., Lehigh Cement, and Cal Portland, assaulted striking members and or blocked union members' constitutional right to protest. A judge also found that during the strike, there have been multiple instances at concrete company sites where non-union drivers of trucks leasing from serving the companies have charged into picketers, thereby causing bodily injury and creating a significant danger to the picketers. So the ruling stated that one truck driver intentionally drove a truck against a picketer who was clearly standing in front of the truck, and that another driver for Cabin Materials Inc. drove a truck into the time picket line, causing physical contact with picketers and causing industry. So here's what's happened. It is short. Not only are there a bunch of scabs screwing over the concrete workers who had been seeing some, the developers were scared, but they got some scabs. So not only is that happening, but these scabs are assaulting the striking workers. And the big question that comes to my mind, what stage of capitalism is this? Where you are really pitting the workers against each other, to where stuff like this is happening, and you know that every single person involved is desperate. I'm not excusing what those scabs did. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying, this is what society has handed us. This is where this society of capitalism has gotten us. And it's not corporatism, it's not corporate capitalism, it's not crony capitalism. It's just capitalism. It does the exact same thing and gets to the exact same extreme every single time. It has been tried in the history of humankind, and it will never change. There is no way to do it ethically. That's a bunch of bullshit. And anyone who's saying that is just being an apologist for capitalism. Take the boot out of your mouth and realize it's a shit system. If it was a car, it would break down every 2,700 miles. It's shit, it's garbage, and it's time to move past it. Full stop.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's the end of an empire. With everything we're seeing, not just happening at home, but around the world, this is the American empire kind of seeing its last days. There's a shift in global power. There's also a shift in within the power that exists in your own country. Workers are standing up. How many more industries are we going to see strikes from until they have to address the fact that okay, we hands up, we give up, kind of a thing. Where's it going to get to?
I think it's not going to get to that point until you really have a massive disruption of what's going on. And look, that doesn't sound fun or pleasant, and it's probably not going to be. But again, I don't advocate for a general strike because I think it'll be easy. I advocate for a general strike because I don't see how there's any other way. I just don't. I mean, yeah, you're seeing
historically speaking, it works.
Yeah, I mean, strikes on the micro level are seeing some success, which is great. It's awesome when teachers get a new contract, when John Deere got a lot of what they wanted, when IATSE got some of what they want. They should have gotten more, but they got something. Yeah, those are all some small wins. Those are all important. Places are upping their wages. Okay, like we're winning in the margins. That's great. But there's still so much. It's like a light is shown on companies by the day. I mean, it's like, just think the past couple weeks, Amy's Kitchen, Applebee's, and it's like, look, this is a system. It's all of them. And look, acting with your dollars, does it help? Abso-freaking-lutely. I mean, that's why Starbucks stock is down. That proves that, like, yeah, when you take a stand and you're like, I don't want to patronize this establishment anymore, it does help. Is it the be all and end all? No. And is there any ethical consumption under capitalism? No. So, I mean, if you're on a freaking road trip and you're about to fall asleep and the only thing within like 50 miles is a Starbucks, get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, go to
Don't risk wrecking your car. I mean, come on. Let's be
go to
reasonable.
Montana if you want to get something to eat that's not fast food. If you want to like actually get like produce or whatever, Walmart. That's the only option that's available.
If that's the only option. No, and I get that, and I'm not saying I'm saying
That-
if you can avoid it, that's great.
But
Do
in a
it.
lot of places you can't
In a
because
lot of
that's
places
the
you
way
can't.
the system is set up.
Right.
The system is set up so you can't avoid it. And then and then that's when the critiques of people like us come out and be like, "Oh, well, I've seen you drink a Starbucks. I've seen you, get something from Walmart." It's like, "Yeah, because I literally had no other option.
Yeah.
I needed caffeine to stay awake and that was my only option
I've
for
been there.
130 miles." Like,
Yeah, I've been there.
like
I've
yeah,
been
we're
there,
all
but
victims of the
when I'm at
system.
home, I have a lot of great independent coffee shops that
Mhm.
are available to me, and I also just like to make coffee at home, quite frankly. So
Me too.
I never have to step foot in a Starbucks, and even if I like, I wouldn't even want to anyway. You know what I mean? Like I would still like prefer these other places over Starbucks anyway because their coffee sucks. But like, I mean, my point is it's just like, look, it does help, but at the end of the day, it's like this is a systemic thing. Red Lobster is not unique. Amy's Kitchen is not unique. Applebee's is not unique. Starbucks is not unique. They're all doing the same shit, and there's some, like Costco is among the better ones. They're better than if more companies at that level behaved like Costco would be a little better off, but they still have a long freaking way to go. Walmart is the most despicable of the despicable, and that's quite a fucking feat. That is quite a fucking feat. So are a lot of these companies as despicable as Walmart? No, most aren't. But they're still hella despicable in most cases, and even some of the good ones still have a long way to go. And being good is quite generous. Going as far as to say Costco is good, are they good compared to Walmart? Yeah. Are they good compared to Starbucks? Yeah. Is there still a long way to go? Yeah. You know?
And Starbucks used to be I remember when I was I worked for Starbucks when I was in college, and when I was working for them in college, a lot of people were like, try to keep that job, try to keep that job. Oh, they do student loan reimbursements. They help you out, in getting set with a career track and this, that, and the third. They do all these things for veterans and all of that sort of stuff. And they did have those policies, and they were helping some of their people out with student loans and everything like that. So, but there has been a pretty significant culture shift, like a corporate culture shift in the Starbucks, where I don't think those things, which are good in my opinion, if you're gonna like, it opens up a can of worms about other systemic problems. But if a corporation wants to help reduce student loans and hire more veterans and help them out in that case, those are good. Those are
Right.
good things. But I think at this point, those good things aren't enough when there's a pile of other bad things right behind it.
Well, and things are changing, so now there's a bunch of asterisks associated with it. I mean, yeah, like there was a point in time where like Starbucks actually was pretty decent compared to a lot of other employers, but now like they kind of like cut down on all that. And so Krish, where can people go to learn more about you?
You can go to my website, which is krishmohanhaha.com, KRISHMOHANHAHA.com. I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff there. I'm kind of shifting away from making video and audio content because it's a lot of work and it's very exhausting, and doing more written pieces with graphics and illustrations and things like that. So that'll all get posted on my website and on my Substack as well.
Cool, buddy. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be seeing you soon on the road, and
Super excited.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is always fun.
All right, man. That's Krish Mohan. Check him out. You know where to find him. Krish Mohan Haha on Twitter. KrishMohanHaha.com. And you can come see him on the road. I'll plug those tour dates again. April 16th, Pittsburgh, April 18th, Toronto, April 20th, Ottawa, April 21st, Montreal, April 22nd, Burlington, Vermont, April 23rd, Portland, Maine, April 24th, Boston, Massachusetts, April 25th, New York City, baby. You can get tickets at ronplacone.com. Chris is going to be opening all of those shows. Lauren Ashcraft will be on the show in Pittsburgh and New York. And Jill Stein's going to be joining me for a tune in Boston. So get your tickets. Don't wait. ronplacone.com. If you want to support the show on the sustainability end, patreon.com/ronplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of perks. You get my album. You can just download my first album. You get full stand-up clips not available anywhere else, patron streams, patron Zoom shows, and I'll make you a theme song. And that is all for a give what you can level. Oh, and I drop all my stuff on my Patreon. So it's a one-stop place to get everything I put out. Twitter unsubscribes people. Sometimes people don't get notified. On Patreon, you just get everything. So patreon.com/ronplacone. And you can get all that for as low as $1 a month. I really want to build a community. I really want to get a lot of members. I really want to start pushing municipal broadband ideas more nationally and internationally. So I want everyone to be able to join, regardless of how much means they do or don't have. So maybe you're thinking, I don't have a ton right now, Ron. You know, it's a tough time. But I wouldn't miss $1 a month. $1 a month, that's not going to affect me. Well, patreon.com/ronplacone. Sometimes people are like, $1 a month, Rod, that's probably not enough, right? No, that's fine. That is totally fine. If you got $1 a month that you won't miss and want to join my Patreon, please do. Patreon.com/ronplacone. All right, you get the idea. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will be back next week. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. I say peace, love, and a general strike.